Hi everyone, my name is Sabina Borthwick, Teaching and Learning Leader for Communication, Language and Literacy at the British Council School in Madrid. I'm going to share with you 6 different storytelling techniques that will transform storytime into the opportunity to enter the enchanted world of immersive storytelling every time you open a book. The first technique I want to share with you is to seek out repetition stories. When choosing stories to share, or making up your own, your younger audiences seeking out repetition stories will make a huge positive impact on student engagement. The technique of using repetition is the secret ingredient. It builds anticipation and invites participation. Think of it as a cozy blanket of familiarity. I guarantee by the time you are a few pages into a story that contains a high level of repetition, if you were to say, "We can't go," most children will jump at the chance to tell you over it. Going on a bear hunt is one of the many fantastic repetition stories that you could use. The next technique is to use characters with familiar names. Why? Because personalisation matters. When children recognise names from their own world, they feel connected. It's like inviting friends over for a play date in Storyland. Don't be afraid to change the name of a character in the story to allow this to happen. So, we've got a story chosen, we've got some familiar names if possible, and we are ready to start the story. This next technique is around the idea of using your whole self to tell a story. We know that children learn through multisensory experiences. When we use expressive voices and physical movements, we activate the different parts of our brains. It's like adding sprinkles to a cupcake. The more sprinkles there are, the more delightful and memorable the cupcake becomes. For example, by becoming the dragon or using a fluttery butterfly and using parts of our body to demonstrate movements or asking our students how they think such characters move, we transport our little learners into the heart of the story. Imagine now we're in the midst of storytelling. I just mentioned the whole self, which includes your voice. The technique of voice modulation comes into play at a deeper level here when sharing a story. Our voices are like paintbrushes. Different strokes create different emotions. Deeper, mysterious, high-pitched for excitement. It's our vocal palette painting the picture of story for our listeners that allows them to be drawn further into a story. For example, the giant's roar echoed through the valley, shaking the very leaves. Or the mouse tiptoed past the giant's foot, careful not to step on any of the dry leaves scattered on the ground. Throughout your story session, don't forget about the pace and suspense of the story. Technique number 5. Storytelling is a dance. We sway between slow and fast, holding our audience captive. Suspense is the heartbeat of every tale. The treasure map led them deeper into the dark cave. What would they find? Lastly, and this technique is not always needed, but can add layers into our stories, and it's the idea of visual aids. They're like glitter on our magical robes, adding depth, creating physical connections between the real world and the world of stories. But remember, sometimes the best visuals are the ones painted by our imagination. Look, children, can you see the shimmering castle atop the hill? And these types of questions draw them in. It ignites their imagination and invites them into the illustrations of a story. Remember, these story techniques aren't just about teaching literacy. They're about nurturing wonder and curiosity. The pages within any book contain the story, but you are the storyteller, the one that brings stories to life. And using these techniques will lift the story from those pages and into the minds of your story listeners. So go forth, weave your storytelling spells, and watch the magic twinkle in their eyes.